There are places in this world where the air hums with secrets, where ancient stones whisper stories we've yet to fully understand. Scattered across the globe, hidden in dense jungles, buried beneath shifting sands, or perched atop wind-swept cliffs, lie the remnants of sacred spaces, ritual sites built by civilizations long gone. These aren't just ruins, they're puzzles carved in stone, each one holding clues to mysteries that defy logic and challenge everything we think we know about the past. From towering megaliths aligned with celestial events to underground chambers echoing with strange acoustics, these sites were designed with purpose. But what that purpose was often remains tantalizingly out of reach. Imagine standing in the heart of one of these ancient sanctuaries, surrounded by symbols you can't decipher, feeling the weight of centuries pressing in around you. Why did some cultures build intricate labyrinths deep underground, accessible only through narrow, twisting passages? How did they manage to transport massive stones weighing tons across impossible distances without the technology we have today? And perhaps most haunting of all, what rituals took place here, rites so powerful they demanded such extraordinary architecture? The answers, if they exist at all, are fragmented, leaving us with more questions than certainty. Today, we're delving into 30 of the most perplexing phenomena found at these enigmatic sites, each one a thread in the vast, tangled tapestry of human history. Some of these mysteries may hint at lost knowledge, advanced understanding of astronomy, or even connections we can't yet comprehend. Others might simply remind us that the past is far stranger than we often assume. So join me as we step into the shadows of these ancient spaces, where every carving, every alignment, every unexplained artifact tells a story waiting to be unraveled. This isn't just a journey through ruins, it's an exploration of the unknown, a quest to uncover the secrets buried in the very bones of our world. One of the most baffling mysteries lies in the heart of England, where the towering stones of Stonehenge have stood silent for thousands of years. These massive blue stones, some weighing as much as 4 tons, didn't come from the surrounding plains. They were dragged over an astonishing 150 miles from the Preseli Hills in Wales. The question that has haunted researchers for generations is simple yet staggering: how? At a time when wheels were barely in use and metal tools were rare, how did ancient Britons achieve such a feat of engineering? Theories range from the practical to the almost mythical. Some suggest these stones were carried by glaciers during the last ice age, deposited conveniently close to where Stonehenge now stands. But geological studies have cast doubt on that idea, showing no evidence of glacial movement in the area during that period. Others propose an even more astonishing possibility, that our ancestors transported them manually, using sledges, ropes, and sheer manpower. Experiments have shown it might have taken hundreds of people working in unison just to move a single stone. Yet the mystery deepens when we consider not just how they got there, but why. The arrangement of the stones isn't random. It aligns perfectly with the movements of the sun and moon, marking solstices and eclipses with uncanny precision. This wasn't just a monument, it was a celestial calendar, a sacred space where the heavens and earth intertwined. Did the builders possess knowledge we've since forgotten? Were they guided by something or someone we can't yet explain? The most tantalizing clue might lie in the legends surrounding the site. Ancient tales speak of a wizard named Merlin magically transporting the stones from Ireland, or of giants who placed them there in a single night. While we dismiss these as myths, they echo a persistent truth: Stonehenge has always defied easy explanation. Whether through lost technology, forgotten rituals, or something even more enigmatic, the moving stones remain a silent challenge from the past, daring us to unravel their secrets. High above the arid plains of southern Peru, a mystery unfolds, one that only reveals itself when viewed from the sky. The Nazca Lines, sprawling across nearly 200 square miles of desert, are a collection of enormous geoglyphs etched into the earth. These aren't simple scratches in the sand. They're intricate designs depicting animals, plants, and geometric shapes, some stretching over 1,200 feet long. The precision is staggering. Straight lines run perfectly for miles without wavering. Curves flow with mathematical exactness, and the proportions remain flawless despite the vast scale. But here's the twist. These creations are virtually invisible from the ground. So why would a civilization from 2,000 years ago, with no known means of flight, design something only fully appreciable from the air? Theories about how the Nazca people achieved this feat range from ingenious to otherworldly. Some researchers suggest they used simple tools and careful planning, staking ropes to map out the lines, scaling up smaller designs by dividing them into grids. Experiments have shown that with basic technology and organized labor, these massive artworks could be replicated. But even then, the question lingers: how did they maintain such perfect symmetry over such vast distances without a bird's-eye view to guide them? Could they have built rudimentary hot air balloons or kites to oversee their work? Fragments of ancient textiles and pottery show depictions of balloon-like objects, fueling speculation that the Nazca might have taken to the skies in some form. Then there are the more controversial theories that involve outside intervention. Ancient astronaut enthusiasts point to the lines as potential landing strips or signals for extraterrestrial visitors, arguing that the precision and scale defy the technological capabilities of the time. While mainstream archaeology dismisses these claims, the sheer audacity of the designs keeps the debate alive. After all, why go to such lengths to create art that couldn't be seen by the artists themselves? Perhaps the most compelling explanation lies in the spiritual. The Nazca may have never intended these lines for human eyes at all. Some scholars believe they were meant for the gods, offerings or pathways to communicate with deities in the sky. The desert itself, with its windless climate and stable surface, acted as a perfect canvas, preserving these messages for millennia. Whether as celestial markers, ritual pathways, or something beyond our understanding, the Nazca Lines remain a silent testament to a culture that reached for the heavens long before the rest of the world thought to look up. In the rugged mountains of southwestern Turkey, flames flicker without end. Fires that have burned for so long, they may have sparked one of humanity's oldest myths. Known as the eternal fires of Mount Chimera, these eerie flames rise from fissures in the rocky earth, fueled by natural gas seeping through the ground. Some have blazed continuously for over 2,000 years, defying rain, wind, and time itself. To ancient civilizations, these weren't just geological oddities. They were divine manifestations, gateways to the supernatural. Could these very fires have inspired the legend of the Chimera, the fire-breathing monster of Greek mythology? The connection isn't as far-fetched as it might seem. The Lycians, an ancient people who once thrived in this region, revered these flames as sacred. They built temples and altars around the burning vents, believing them to be the breath of the gods or the remnants of a celestial battle. Pilgrims traveled great distances to witness the phenomenon, leaving offerings and seeking prophecies from the priests who tended the fires. The site became a crossroads of ritual and mystery, where the boundary between the earthly and the divine seemed to dissolve in the heat. What makes these eternal flames so captivating isn't just their longevity, but their inexplicable nature. Unlike typical wildfires or volcanic activity, these fires don't rely on wood or magma. They're fed by methane and other hydrocarbons seeping from deep within the earth, a process so steady that even modern scientists marvel at its persistence. Yet for ancient observers, there was no scientific explanation, only awe. The flames never dwindled, never extinguished, as if some unseen hand kept them alive. The link to the Chimera myth adds another layer of intrigue. In Greek tales, the Chimera was a terrifying hybrid, part lion, part goat, part serpent, that spewed flames and ravaged the land. The descriptions eerily match the landscape here: rocky outcrops resembling a lion's mane, twisting slopes like a serpent's coils, and of course the unending fire. Could early travelers have encountered these vents and woven them into the fabric of legend? It's a tantalizing thought, one that blurs the line between geology and storytelling. Even today, the fires of Mount Chimera hold a magnetic pull. Visitors trek up the mountainside at dusk to watch the flames dance against the darkening sky, just as ancient worshippers once did. There's something primal about standing before a fire that has outlasted empires, a flame that might have illuminated the faces of mythmakers millennia ago. Whether as a natural wonder, a sacred site, or the birthplace of a legendary beast, these eternal fires remind us that some mysteries don't just endure, they burn brightly, waiting for us to uncover their secrets. Deep in the slopes of Mount Parnassus, where the air itself seemed to hum with divine energy, the ancient world sought answers from a woman who spoke in riddles and trances, the Oracle of Delphi. For centuries, kings, generals, and ordinary pilgrims climbed the sacred path to the Temple of Apollo, desperate for guidance from the Pythia, the priestess who channeled prophecies while seated atop a tripod above a fissure in the earth. But what was really happening in that shadowy chamber? Modern science has uncovered a startling possibility. The Pythia wasn't just pretending. She might have been chemically intoxicated by the very ground beneath her. Recent geological surveys of the site revealed something ancient worshippers could never have understood. The temple was built directly over two intersecting fault lines, fractures in the earth that released traces of ethylene, a sweet-smelling gas with potent psychoactive effects. Inhaling even small amounts can induce a trance-like state, blurring the line between reality and vision. The descriptions from antiquity match eerily well the Pythia's frenzied speech, her convulsions, the way she'd collapse after sessions, drained and disoriented. This wasn't theater, it was chemistry, but here's where the mystery twists. Not every account describes the Pythia's behavior the same way. Some historians report her speaking clearly, delivering precise prophecies, while others depict her moaning in cryptic fragments. Could the gas emissions have fluctuated over time? Geological activity isn't constant. Fault lines shift and gas flows change. If the ethylene levels varied, so too might the intensity of the Pythia's trances. One day she might have offered coherent advice, another she could have been lost in delirium, leaving priests to interpret her ravings. The implications are profound. Imagine a civilization relying on decisions of war, peace, and destiny, all filtered through the haze of an invisible intoxicant. The Delphic Oracle wasn't just a religious institution, it was a geopolitical powerhouse. Cities rose or fell based on her words, yet behind it all, the earth itself may have been the silent architect of history, whispering through cracks in the rock, bending human fate with every breath of gas. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't whether the vapors were real, it's whether the Pythia knew. Did she understand she was inhaling the breath of the earth, or did she truly believe Apollo spoke through her? In that sacred smoke, science and spirituality collide, leaving us to wonder where the line between divinity and geology truly lies. The oracle's voice is silent now, but the stones of Delphi still murmur their secrets, waiting for us to listen. The ruins of ancient Carthage hold a dark secret beneath their sun-baked stones, rows of small, meticulously placed urns, each containing the charred remains of children. Known as tophets, these burial sites have sparked one of archaeology's most heated debates. Did the Carthaginians really sacrifice their young to the gods, or is this a grim misunderstanding perpetuated by their enemies? The evidence is as unsettling as it is divisive. Excavations at Tophet sites reveal thousands of urns filled with cremated bones, many belonging to infants and toddlers. Mixed among them are animal remains, all buried beneath markers inscribed with dedications to Baal Hammon and Tanit, the city's chief deities. The inscriptions are chillingly consistent vows of Molk, a term some scholars interpret as a sacrificial offering. Ancient historians like Diodorus Siculus and Plutarch described Carthaginian rituals in horrific detail. Bronze statues with outstretched arms meant to hold children over roaring flames, parents forbidden from weeping as the fires consumed them. But can we trust these accounts written by Rome, Carthage's bitter rival? Skeptics argue the Tophets were simply cemeteries for children who died naturally, a heartbreaking reflection of high infant mortality in the ancient world. They point to the animal bones as proof. Perhaps these were symbolic sacrifices, substitutes for human lives, yet forensic studies complicate the picture. Some child remains show signs of trauma inconsistent with natural death, and the sheer scale of the site suggests something more systematic than tragedy. Chemical analysis of the bones reveals exposure to extreme heat, supporting claims of ritual burning. The controversy deepens when we consider Carthage's neighbors. The Phoenicians, from whom the Carthaginians descended, were accused of similar practices by their enemies. Was child sacrifice a cultural legacy or propaganda wielded against an alien civilization? Even the Bible references such rites in the Valley of Hinnom, painting a portrait of widespread ritual horror. Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in the silence of Carthage itself. Unlike Rome or Greece, the city left no defensive texts denying the accusations. Were these sacrifices so normalized they required no explanation, or did the truth perish with the city when Rome razed it to the ground? The Tophets endure as mute witnesses, their ashes holding secrets we may never fully decipher. What's certain is this: in the shadow of Carthage's altars, the line between devotion and devastation blurs beyond recognition. Beneath the sun-scorched island of Malta lies a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers carved from solid limestone, a place where sound doesn't just travel but transforms. The Hypogeum of Halsaflieni, a subterranean temple dating back over 5,000 years, isn't merely an architectural marvel, it's an acoustic puzzle. Step into its deepest chamber, known as the Oracle Room, and whisper a word. The echo that returns isn't a fading ripple but a resonant, almost musical hum that lingers in the air like a ghostly chorus. This isn't an accident. The ancients who built this space engineered it to bend sound in ways that defy simple explanation. The precision of the Hypogeum's acoustics is staggering. Certain frequencies, particularly those in the range of the human voice, amplify dramatically, while others fade into silence. Researchers who have mapped the soundscape describe standing in specific spots where vibrations seem to rise from the stone itself, as if the walls were humming in response. One theory suggests the creators used this phenomenon to simulate the voices of gods during rituals, projecting whispers from hidden niches to create the illusion of divine communication. Imagine a priestess speaking softly into the darkness, her words swelling into a chorus that filled the chamber. How could anyone present not believe the gods were answering? But the mystery goes deeper. The Hypogeum's acoustics align eerily with the natural resonant frequency of the human brain, around 110 Hz, a range known to induce altered states of consciousness. Experiments in modern sound therapy show that vibrations at this frequency can trigger feelings of transcendence, even visions. Did the builders of the Hypogeum discover this effect through trial and error, or did they possess knowledge of sound's power that we've only recently rediscovered? The absence of written records leaves us with only echoes of their intent. What's undeniable is the care taken to harness sound as a sacred force. The walls and ceilings are shaped with curves that catch and amplify specific tones, while narrow passages act like natural filters, deadening unwanted noise. Even the red ochre pigment found in the Oracle Room may have played a role. Some scholars suggest it was chosen for its acoustic properties, absorbing certain frequencies to enhance others. This wasn't just a temple, it was an instrument painstakingly tuned to the human experience of the divine. The most haunting question isn't how they achieved this feat, but why. In a world without microphones or speakers, sound was a fleeting, magical thing. A voice could vanish on the wind or rise to fill a cavern. By mastering it, the builders of the hypogeum turned the very air into a conduit for the sacred. Whether used for initiation rites, healing ceremonies, or communion with ancestors, this underground sanctuary reminds us that the past wasn't silent. It sang, and if we listen closely, we might still hear its song. Stretching across the windswept coast of Brittany in France, the Karnak stones stand in eerie silence, row upon row of ancient megaliths, over 3,000 in total, arranged with a precision that defies the passage of time. Unlike the clustered circles of Stonehenge, these stones march across the landscape in near-perfect lines, some towering over 12 feet high, others worn low by centuries of rain and wind. But what purpose could such a vast, orderly arrangement have served? The theories are as captivating as they are varied, ranging from the practical to the celestial, each one hinting at a civilization far more sophisticated than we often give them credit for. One of the most compelling ideas suggests the stones functioned as an early seismic detector, a sort of Stone Age warning system for earthquakes. Geological surveys reveal the area sits atop a network of active fault lines, and the positioning of the megaliths aligns eerily with underground fractures. When the earth trembles, the stones resonate at specific frequencies, their rigid formations amplifying subtle vibrations. Imagine standing near these monoliths during a minor quake. The air itself might hum with their response, a natural alarm echoing through the Breton Hills. Could ancient builders have noticed this phenomenon and deliberately placed the stones to monitor the Earth's movements? It's a tantalizing possibility, one that paints our ancestors not just as monument builders but as keen observers of the natural world. Yet the stone's alignment tells another story, written in the language of the stars. Many of the rows point toward key solar and lunar events, solstices, equinoxes, and even rare eclipses. The sheer scale of the site suggests it wasn't just a local calendar but a regional hub for tracking time, perhaps guiding agricultural cycles or religious ceremonies. Archaeoastronomers have mapped the angles of the longest rows, finding correlations with celestial patterns that repeat over decades. This wasn't random, it was mathematics etched in stone, a silent dialogue between earth and sky. The mystery deepens when we consider the folklore surrounding Karnak. Local legends speak of a Roman legion turned to stone by the wizard Merlin, their frozen ranks standing forever in military formation. Others claim the stones mark the graves of fallen warriors, their spirits bound to the land. While these tales are poetic, they obscure a more profound truth: the builders of Karnak left no written records, no carvings to explain their work. The stones are their message, a code we're still deciphering. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't what the stones were for, but why their creators abandoned them. Unlike other ritual sites, Karnak shows no signs of violent destruction or gradual decay, just a quiet desertion, as if the knowledge behind their placement was lost overnight. Were they victims of a forgotten catastrophe, or did their purpose simply fade from memory? Walking among these silent sentinels today, it's impossible not to feel the weight of that absence, a civilization's grand project reduced to riddles in the earth. Whether as earthquake monitors, cosmic clocks, or something beyond our grasp, the Karnak stones endure as a reminder: the past never truly vanishes. It stands in plain sight, waiting for us to read its signs. Beneath the rocky plains of Cappadocia in Turkey lies a secret that remained buried for centuries, an entire city hidden in the depths of the earth. Derinkuyu isn't just a cave or a tunnel. It's a sprawling, multi-level metropolis carved directly into the volcanic rock, descending over 200 feet underground. With space for an estimated 20,000 people, complete with stables, chapels, wineries, and even ventilation shafts, this wasn't a temporary refuge, it was a fully functioning subterranean civilization. But why would anyone choose to live in perpetual darkness, and how did such an enormous complex stay concealed for so long? The answer lies in the volatile history of the region. Cappadocia's soft volcanic rock made it easy to carve, but its open landscapes also made it vulnerable to invasion. Over the centuries, everyone from Persians to Romans to Arab armies swept through, leaving devastation in their wake. For the locals, Derinkuyu offered more than shelter. It was a fortress. Massive stone doors, each weighing hundreds of pounds, could be rolled shut to seal off entire sections, while narrow, winding passages forced invaders to move single file, making them easy targets for defenders. Wells tapped into underground water sources, ensuring survival during long sieges, and cleverly designed ventilation shafts kept the air fresh, even deep below the surface. This wasn't just hiding, it was strategic survival on an epic scale. Yet the most baffling aspect isn't the city's defenses, it's the sheer ambition of its construction. Without modern tools, how did they carve out 18 stories of living space, complete with staircases, storage rooms, and religious sanctuaries? The precision suggests more than just desperate digging. It points to a society with advanced engineering knowledge. Some tunnels connect to other underground cities miles away, hinting at a network that may have spanned the entire region. Was Derinkuyu part of a broader, coordinated effort, or did it grow organically over generations? The lack of written records leaves us guessing. Then there's the mystery of its disappearance. Unlike sites destroyed by war or natural disaster, Derinkuyu seems to have been abandoned deliberately, its doors sealed, its passages left intact. Local legends speak of early Christians using it to evade persecution, but evidence suggests it predates them by centuries. Could it have been built by the Hittites or even an older, forgotten culture? The silence of the stones offers no easy answers. Today, walking through Derinkuyu's shadowy corridors, you can't help but feel the weight of its history. The soot marks from ancient torches still stain the ceilings, and the grooves where doors once slid shut are worn smooth by time. This wasn't just a hiding place, it was a testament to human ingenuity, a reminder that when faced with existential threats, our ancestors didn't just flee. They dug in, literally, and built a world beneath the world. Whether as a refuge, a stronghold, or something more enigmatic, Derinkuyu stands as one of history's most astonishing feats, a city meant to vanish, only to be rediscovered millennia later, waiting to tell its story. In the dense jungles of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, where sunlight filters through the canopy onto ancient stone, lies one of the most haunting relics of the Maya civilization, the sacred cenote of Chichén Itzá. This gaping sinkhole, over 160 feet wide and shrouded in near-perfect darkness below its turquoise surface, wasn't just a water source. It was a gateway to the underworld, a place where the Maya communed with the gods through offerings so precious they defy belief. Gold, jade, incense, and human lives all vanished into its depths, all in service to Chok, the fearsome rain god whose favor meant survival in a land where water was life itself. For centuries, the cenote's secret stayed hidden beneath layers of silt and shadow, but modern underwater archaeology has begun to illuminate its dark waters, revealing artifacts untouched for 1,000 years. Divers have recovered skulls with fractures consistent with ritual sacrifice, their bones whispering of ceremonies where the chosen, often young men, were cast into the abyss. Some may have been warriors or nobles, their deaths meant to secure prosperity for their people. Others might have been volunteers, embracing their fate as divine messengers. Alongside them lay treasures that still gleam beneath the water. Intricately carved jade masks, golden bells forged to mimic the sound of rain, and obsidian knives used in ceremonies we can only imagine. The most startling discoveries, though, aren't the objects themselves, it's their origins. Chemical analysis reveals that some of the gold came from as far away as Panama and Colombia, while the jade traces back to Guatemala's highlands. This wasn't just local tribute, it was a coordinated effort spanning vast trade networks, a testament to Chichén Itzá's power as a spiritual epicenter. The Maya weren't merely throwing valuables into the water, they were curating offerings, selecting items that symbolized the convergence of earthly wealth and cosmic forces. Yet the cenote's true mystery lies in its role as a living ritual space. Unlike static temples, this was a place of movement and transformation. During droughts, priests might have staged elaborate ceremonies on its brink, chanting as smoke curled from copal incense and the echoes of splashes faded into the void. Recent sonar mapping has revealed hidden caves beneath the cenote's floor, suggesting the Maya believed it connected to Xibalba, their underworld. A sacrifice here wasn't just an offering, it was a direct line to the gods, a plea carried by the sinking weight of jade and bone. What's left unanswered is how the victims met their end. Some skeletons show no signs of violence, hinting at poison or ritual drowning. Others bear marks of defleshing, suggesting their bodies were prepared for the gods' consumption. The cenote doesn't give up its secrets easily. Each discovery pulls us deeper into the Maya's spiritual calculus, where life, death, and water were intertwined. Standing at the edge of the sacred cenote today, it's hard not to feel the echo of those prayers. The rain still falls, just as it did when Chok's name was chanted into the darkness. The water still hides its dead, and the stones of Chichen-Itza still watch, silent witnesses to a pact between humanity and the divine, one that demanded the ultimate price. Death Valley holds one of the most surreal mysteries in the natural world, rocks that move by themselves, leaving long, meandering trails etched into the dry lakebed of racetrack playa. These aren't small pebbles shifting with the wind. Some weigh over 700 pounds, yet they slide across the flat, cracked earth as if pushed by invisible hands. For decades, scientists and visitors alike stood baffled, watching these sailing stones carve paths that sometimes stretch hundreds of feet, twisting and turning with no obvious explanation. How could such massive rocks move without any human or animal intervention? And why do their trails seem so deliberate, almost choreographed? The answer, it turns out, lies in a delicate dance of ice, wind, and water, a phenomenon so rare it was only confirmed in the last decade. During winter, frigid nights transform the playa's thin layer of rainwater into vast, fragile sheets of ice. When the sun rises, this ice begins to fracture into massive floating panels, some as large as parking lots. Light winds, barely strong enough to flutter a flag, push these sheets across the shallow water still pooled beneath them. The ice grips the rocks like a slow-moving conveyor belt, inching them forward with barely perceptible force. Over hours or even days, a single stone might travel the length of a football field, its path dictated by the whims of the cracking ice and shifting breezes. Yet the mystery isn't entirely solved. Some stones move in perfect sync, while others spin or change direction abruptly, leaving zigzagging trails that defy simple physics. Researchers have noted that the playa's surface must be exquisitely balanced, just wet enough to form ice, but not so flooded that the rocks become anchored in mud. Even the shape of the stones plays a role. Flatter rocks tend to sail farther, while heavier ones plow through the ice like ships through a frozen sea. And then there are the outlier stones that move when no ice is present, hinting at other forces at work. Could magnetic anomalies or subtle seismic vibrations nudge them when conditions align? The data is still inconclusive. What makes the sailing stones truly mesmerizing isn't just the how, but the when. For years, no one had ever witnessed them in motion. The trails appeared mysteriously, as if the rocks wandered only when no one was looking. It wasn't until 2011 that researchers finally caught the movement on camera, documenting the glacial pace of their journey. But even with photographic proof, the phenomenon retains an air of magic. Standing on the playa at dawn, with the first light glinting off the ice, it's easy to see why early observers spun tales of supernatural forces or hidden energies pulsing beneath the earth. The stones of Death Valley remind us that nature's most ordinary elements, water, wind, ice, can conspire to create the extraordinary. In a world where we've mapped the depths of the ocean and the surface of Mars, these wandering rocks humbly insist that some mysteries still glide just beyond our grasp, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. In the arid plains of northern Iraq near the city of Kirkuk, a flame flickers ceaselessly against the desert wind, untouched by time, unquenched by rain, burning with the same intensity it has for over 4,000 years. Known as Baba Gurgur, or Father of Fire, this eternal blaze emerges from cracks in the rocky earth, fueled by natural gas seeping through the ground. But this isn't just a geological oddity. It's a living relic of humanity's oldest spiritual obsessions, a site where fire worship and legend intertwine. Could this very flame have inspired one of the Bible's most dramatic tales, the fiery furnace of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? The connection isn't as far-fetched as it might seem. Ancient Mesopotamia, where Baba Gurgur burns, was the cradle of fire cults where flames were revered as manifestations of divine power. The Zoroastrians, who dominated the region before the rise of Islam, built temples around such eternal fires, believing them to be physical links to Ahura Mazda, their god of light and wisdom. Pilgrims traveled for miles to witness the unyielding blaze, offering prayers to its radiant heat. Even earlier, the Babylonians may have held rituals here, their priests interpreting the fire's movements as messages from the gods. What makes Baba Gurgur so arresting isn't just its age but its persistence. Unlike volcanoes or wildfires, this flame doesn't rely on combustible material or seismic activity. It's fed by an underground reservoir of methane and ethane, a natural pipeline that's kept it alive through empires and invasions, from the Sumerians to Saddam Hussein. For ancient observers, this defiance of nature's cycles, burning through storms, droughts, and centuries, could only be supernatural. The biblical link adds another layer of intrigue. The Book of Daniel describes a furnace so hot it killed the soldiers who stoked it, yet 3 men emerged unscathed, protected by divine intervention. Some scholars argue the tale could be a metaphorical nod to actual fire worship sites like Baba Gurgur, where flames were both deadly and sacred. The region's history of fiery rituals, combined with the site's proximity to ancient Babylon, makes the theory tantalizingly plausible. Today, the flame still draws visitors, though for different reasons. Modern oil workers tend to the site, a reminder that Baba Gurgur sits atop one of the world's richest oil fields. Yet even amid derricks and pipelines, the fire's ancient mystique lingers. Standing before it, you're witnessing the same phenomenon that might have awed Mesopotamian priests or Babylonian kings, a flame that outlasted languages, religions, and civilizations. Whether as a divine messenger, a symbol of resilience, or simply a geological marvel, Baba Gurgur's eternal fire whispers the same truth it did millennia ago. Some forces are beyond human control, burning bright long after their worshippers have turned to dust. Rising from the grassy slopes of Easter Island, the stone faces of the Moai stare silently across the Pacific, their hollow eyes fixed on some distant point beyond the horizon. But what most visitors don't realize is that these iconic heads are just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the earth, their bodies stretch downward, some buried up to 30 feet deep, covered in intricate petroglyphs that no one has ever fully deciphered. These hidden torsos tell a far more complex story than the familiar images in travel brochures, revealing clues to a civilization's brilliance and its shocking collapse. Archaeologists excavating around the statues made a startling discovery. The Moai weren't just heads planted in the ground. Erosion and centuries of shifting soil had slowly swallowed their bodies, leaving only the imposing faces visible. When researchers carefully dug around them, they uncovered massive shoulders, elongated torsos, and arms carved with delicate fingers resting against their sides. But the real mystery lies in the symbols etched into their backs, spirals, fishhooks, and crescent shapes that seem to pulse with meaning. Some believe these markings are genealogical records, tracing the lineage of powerful chiefs. Others argue they're sacred maps, charting underground freshwater sources or celestial events. Without a written key, the petroglyphs remain a locked door to the past. Why bury them at all? One theory suggests it wasn't intentional. The island's fragile ecosystem, stripped of trees by deforestation, would have made the soil unstable. Heavy rains could have triggered landslides that gradually entombed the statues. But there's a darker possibility. The Rapa Nui people who carved the moai may have hidden the bodies themselves during periods of societal strife, a symbolic act of reverence or even defiance. When resources dwindled and clan wars erupted, toppling rival moai became a way to erase enemies' legacies. Burying them might have been an attempt to protect them from destruction, a desperate act of preservation in a world unraveling. The island's collapse is a cautionary tale of ecological limits. At their peak, the Rapa Nui numbered in the thousands, thriving on fishing and farming. The moai, carved from volcanic rock at the Rono Raraku quarry, were their spiritual anchors, representations of ancestors believed to channel protective energy. But transporting these multi-ton statues required vast amounts of timber for rolling and leverage. As trees vanished, so did the means to move the moai, leaving dozens stranded mid-journey, abandoned in the quarry or along ancient roads. Soil erosion followed, crippling agriculture. By the time European explorers arrived in the 18th century, the island was a shadow of itself, its people fractured, its statues toppled. Yet the most haunting question isn't how the society fell, it's why they kept carving. Even as resources vanished, the Rapa Nui continued to extract stone, shaping moai that would never stand. Was it blind devotion, a refusal to abandon tradition even in the face of catastrophe, or something more profound, a belief that the act of creation itself held power regardless of the outcome? Today, the buried moai stand as silent witnesses to both human ingenuity and hubris. Their hidden bodies remind us that history is rarely what it seems on the surface. To understand Easter Island's story, we must dig deeper, literally and figuratively, into the layers of meaning beneath our feet. The petroglyphs may still guard their secrets, but the earth itself whispers a warning. Civilizations rise and fall, but the stones endure. Glastonbury Tor rises from the Somerset landscape like a beacon, its terraced slopes crowned by the ruins of a medieval chapel. But long before Christianity claimed this hill, it pulsed with a power older than recorded history. Across Britain, a web of supposed energy lines, known as ley lines, stretches between ancient sites, linking Glastonbury to Stonehenge, Avebury, and beyond. These invisible pathways, first proposed in the 1920s by amateur archaeologist Alfred Watkins, have sparked debates that blur the line between science and mysticism. Were these alignments mere coincidences of geography, or did ancient builders deliberately position their sacred sites atop currents of Earth energy? The theory gains traction when you plot the map. A straight line drawn from Glastonbury Tor to Stonehenge passes through Avebury's stone circles and numerous burial mounds, a pattern repeating across the countryside. Watkins believed these lines were ancient trade routes, but modern dowsers and pagans argue they channel unseen forces, veins of energy pulsing beneath the soil. During rituals, practitioners claim to feel vibrations or temperature shifts at ley line intersections, particularly at sites like the Tor, where the lines supposedly converge in a spiral. Skeptics counter that with enough points on a map, random alignments are inevitable. Yet the sheer concentration of Neolithic and Bronze Age monuments along these paths is difficult to dismiss. At Avebury, the largest stone circle in Europe, excavations reveal that many standing stones were placed atop underground springs, suggesting a deliberate fusion of earth and water energy. The nearby sanctuary, a circular wooden structure rebuilt multiple times over centuries, sits at the crossing of two major ley lines, its purpose lost to time but its placement undeniably precise. The pagan connection runs deep. Modern druids and witches often gather at these nodes during solstices or eclipses, conducting ceremonies to activate the lines. At Glastonbury, rituals frequently center on the Tor's labyrinthine path, believed to amplify energy as participants climb toward the summit. Some report visions or altered states atop the hill, attributing these experiences to the ley lines' convergence. Historical records hint that such practices may echo the past. Medieval texts describe Glastonbury as the Isle of Apples, a Celtic otherworld portal guarded by the Tor. Science offers alternative explanations. Geologists note that ley lines frequently align with fault zones, where subterranean stress generates weak electromagnetic fields. Could ancient peoples have sensed these anomalies, marking them as sacred? Or were the lines purely symbolic, celestial roads mirroring the Milky Way or paths for the dead? The absence of written records leaves us grasping at shadows. What remains undeniable is the landscape's magnetism. Whether as energy conduits, ritual highways, or imaginative constructs, ley lines endure because they tap into a primal longing to see the earth not as inert ground but as a living, breathing entity. Walking the path from Glastonbury to Stonehenge, with the wind humming through barley fields and the stones rising like sentinels, it's easy to believe the old stories. The land remembers, even if we've forgotten how to listen. High in the stark mountains of Ladakh, where the air thins and the sky stretches endless, there's a stretch of road that plays tricks on the mind. Here, drivers park their cars in neutral only to watch in disbelief as their vehicles begin rolling uphill, defying gravity itself. Known as the Magnetic Hill, this spot has baffled visitors for generations, sparking legends of supernatural forces and hidden energy fields. But is this really a place where the laws of physics bend, or is there a simpler explanation hidden in the landscape? The illusion is so convincing that locals once believed the hill was sacred, a gateway where gods pulled objects toward the heavens. Ancient travelers left offerings at the site, convinced it held a connection to unseen forces. Even today, markings on the road instruct drivers to stop at a specific point, turn off their engines, and wait for the inexplicable pull to take over. The sensation is uncanny, a slow, steady movement against the slope, as if the mountain itself is breathing your car upward. Science, of course, offers a more grounded theory. The magnetic hill isn't magnetic at all, but a masterclass in optical illusion. The surrounding terrain, a series of rolling hills and valleys, creates a false horizon that tricks the eye. What appears to be an uphill slope is actually a gentle decline, hidden by the jagged backdrop of the Himalayas. Without a clear reference point, the human brain misinterprets the incline, turning reality on its head. Similar phenomena exist worldwide, from Canada's Magnetic Hill in New Brunswick to Australia's Spook Hill, each playing the same visual sleight of hand. Yet the mystery lingers. Why does this particular spot in Ladakh feel so charged with energy, even after the illusion is explained? Some researchers point to the region's unique geology, where high iron content in the rocks could create subtle magnetic distortions. Others argue it's the sheer isolation of the place, the thin air and silence amplifying the disorientation. Whatever the reason, the Magnetic Hill remains a pilgrimage site for the curious, a reminder that even in an age of satellites and sensors, the Earth can still surprise us. Perhaps the most fascinating part of this phenomenon isn't the hill itself, but how willingly we suspend disbelief when faced with the impossible. Standing there, feeling your car creep backward or forward or sideways, you're reminded that perception is fragile and the line between miracle and mirage is thinner than we think. The Magnetic Hill doesn't just defy gravity, it challenges our certainty, proving that sometimes the most powerful magic is the kind we can't see. The sailing stones of Racetrack Playa defy logic in a way that feels almost playful. Massive rocks sliding across a desert floor, carving trails as if they've been dragged by unseen hands. Unlike the eternal fires of Mount Chimera, where flames burn with eerie consistency, these stones move in silence, their journeys marked only by the winding scars they leave behind. But thanks to modern technology, we no longer have to imagine their slow dance across the earth. time-lapse footage has finally captured their motion, revealing a process so delicate and precise, it's like watching nature's own clockwork in action. The breakthrough came in 2011 when researchers rigged the playa with weather stations and cameras, patiently waiting for the perfect conditions. What they recorded was nothing short of mesmerizing. As winter rains pooled on the flat lakebed, freezing overnight into vast glassy sheets, the rocks became encased in thin panes of ice. When the sun rose, the ice began to fracture, breaking into floating islands that crept forward with the gentlest nudges of wind. The rocks, some weighing hundreds of pounds, were carried like passengers on these icy rafts, inching forward at speeds barely perceptible to the naked eye. Over days, a single stone might travel the length of a football field, its path dictated by cracks in the ice and the capricious desert breeze, yet the footage also deepened the mystery. Some stones moved in unison as if choreographed, while others pivoted abruptly, leaving jagged trails that twisted like cursive script. The shape of each rock played a role. Flat-bottomed stones sailed smoothly, while uneven ones wobbled or spun, their trails looping like drunken scribbles. Even more puzzling were the outliers, rocks that shifted when no ice was visible, hinting at hidden forces still at work. Could underground water pressure or microscopic vibrations nudge them when conditions align? The answer remains just out of reach. What makes these stones so captivating isn't just their movement, but the sheer improbability of it all. The playa's surface must be exquisitely balanced, just enough water to form ice, but not so much that the rocks sink into mud. The wind must be soft enough to avoid shattering the ice, but strong enough to push it forward. It's a recipe so specific, it's no wonder the phenomenon exists almost nowhere else on Earth. And yet, for decades, no one had ever seen it happen. The trails simply appeared, as if the rocks wandered only when humans weren't looking. Standing on the cracked mud of racetrack playa today, it's easy to understand why early observers spun tales of supernatural forces. The silence is absolute, the landscape almost lunar in its emptiness. The stones seem less like inanimate objects and more like ancient travelers pausing mid-journey, waiting for the next winter's ice to set them free. Their motion is a reminder that even in the most barren places, the Earth is alive with secrets shifting, sliding, rewriting itself in ways we're only beginning to understand. Off the coast of Japan's westernmost island, Yonaguni, lies one of the ocean's most contentious mysteries, a sprawling, angular formation that some claim is the remnants of a sunken city, while others insist it's nothing more than an unusually geometric quirk of nature. Discovered in the 1980s by a diver exploring the crystal-clear waters, the Yonaguni monument rises from the seafloor like a drowned pyramid, its terraced steps and razor-straight edges seeming too precise to be the work of chance. The debate over its origins has divided scientists, archaeologists, and conspiracy theorists for decades. Is this the ruins of a lost civilization swallowed by the Pacific, or just a beautiful accident of geology? The structure's most striking feature is its massive, flat-faced terrace, often called the main platform, which resembles a stepped altar or ceremonial stage. Nearby, what appear to be carved pillars, arched gateways, and even a crude human face etched into the rock fuel speculation. Marine geologists who have studied the site point to the area's frequent seismic activity, arguing that the sandstone formations could have fractured along natural plains, creating the illusion of human craftsmanship. After all, nature is capable of astonishing symmetry. Think of the hexagonal basalt columns at Giant's Causeway or the wind-sculpted arches of the American Southwest. But skeptics of the natural formation theory highlight details that seem deliberate, like the perfectly circular potholes drilled into the rock, a feature common in ancient quarries where stoneworkers extracted materials. Then there's the tantalizing connection to myth. For centuries, legends in the Pacific have spoken of lost continents like Mu or Lemuria, advanced civilizations that supposedly sank beneath the waves in a cataclysmic event. Proponents of the man-made theory argue that Yonaguni could be a fragment of such a culture, a real-world Atlantis preserved underwater. They point to similar submerged structures nearby, including what looks like a stadium and a network of roads as evidence of a larger complex. Even more intriguing are the tool marks reportedly found on some rocks, though these claims remain hotly disputed. The controversy only deepens when you consider the timeline. If Yonaguni was built by humans, it would have to date back at least 10,000 years when sea levels were low enough to expose the site. That predates Japan's oldest known civilizations by millennia, forcing us to rewrite the history books. But could an unknown culture have thrived here, only to vanish without a trace? Opponents counter that no artifacts, no pottery, no tools, no bones have been found to support this theory. Without physical evidence, the case for a lost city rests on circumstantial details and subjective interpretations. Diving at Yonaguni is an experience that blurs the line between wonder and unease. Swimming through the monument's shadowy corridors, it's impossible not to feel the weight of the debate. The ocean has a way of playing tricks on the mind, distorting scale and intention. What one person sees as a carved staircase, another might dismiss as a trick of erosion. Yet the monument's power lies in its ambiguity. Whether a natural masterpiece or a relic of a forgotten world, Yonaguni challenges our understanding of the past, reminding us that the sea keeps its secrets well. The truth, much like the ruins themselves, may remain forever submerged. The Dome of Gol Gumbaz in India holds an eerie secret. Whisper a word against its walls, and the sound will travel nearly 40 meters, circling the cavernous space as clearly as if you were standing right next to the listener. This architectural marvel, built in the 1600s as the mausoleum of Sultan Mohammad Adil Shah, isn't just a tomb, it's a whispering gallery, one of the most precise acoustic anomalies of the ancient world. The effect is so uncanny that legend claims even the faintest sigh can be heard on the opposite side of the dome, a phenomenon that once led visitors to believe the dead themselves were murmuring from beyond the grave. What makes Gol Gumbaz's acoustics so extraordinary is the perfection of its geometry. The dome spans almost 44 meters, making it one of the largest ever constructed without support beams. Its smooth, unbroken curvature acts like a natural amplifier, catching sound waves and channeling them along the walls with almost no loss of clarity. Modern engineers have calculated that the dome's shape creates a sound helix, where whispers spiral upward along the interior, defying the usual dissipation of noise over distance. It's as if the builders encoded an invisible highway for sound into the very bricks and mortar. But was this acoustic mastery intentional or just a happy accident of design? Some historians argue the Sufi architects of the Bijapur Sultanate understood sound as a sacred force, a bridge between the earthly and the divine. In Sufi tradition, the whisper holds deep spiritual significance. It represents the hidden voice of God, the subtle guidance that only the devoted can hear. The gallery's design may have been a deliberate nod to this belief, turning the mausoleum into a place where the living could commune with the departed through the softest of utterances. Others suggest more practical origins. Before modern communication, whispering galleries like Gol Gumbaz might have served as early surveillance systems, allowing guards to eavesdrop on conversations across vast spaces. Yet the precision required to achieve this effect, down to the millimeter, hints at knowledge far beyond simple utility. The dome's acoustics mirror those of ancient Greek theaters and Celtic burial chambers, where sound manipulation was tied to ritual and mysticism. Could Gol Gumbaz be part of a forgotten tradition of sacred architecture, one that harnessed sound as a tool of transcendence? Standing beneath the dome today, the experience is nothing short of magical. You can watch a friend's lips move silently yards away, yet their whisper arrives in your ear as if they're breathing the words directly into your mind. The effect blurs the line between science and spirituality, leaving you to wonder whether the builders of Gol Gumbaz discovered something profound about sound, or whether sound itself revealed its secrets to them. Either way, the dome stands as a testament to the power of the human voice, proving that even the softest whisper can echo across centuries. Deep in the frozen expanse of Antarctica, where glaciers carve the land into a lifeless white desert, nature stages one of its most macabre performances, a waterfall the color of blood cascading from the tongue of the Taylor Glacier. This isn't a trick of the light or some chemical spill. The Blood Falls, as it's gruesomely named, pours forth from an ancient, iron-rich lake trapped beneath 400 meters of ice for over 1 million years. The water, deprived of oxygen and sunlight, reacts with iron deposits as it seeps through fractures in the glacier, oxidizing into a deep, rusty red the moment it contacts the air. The result is a river of liquid rust staining the ice as if the earth itself has been wounded. But what if this grotesque marvel held meaning beyond its scientific explanation? Imagine a prehistoric civilization, perhaps one of the many theorized advanced cultures lost to time, stumbling upon this spectacle during a warmer climatic period. To them, this bleeding glacier wouldn't be a quirk of chemistry. It would be a divine omen, a sacred wound in the flesh of the world. Iron, after all, has long been associated with warfare and strength in ancient mythologies. The Blood Falls could have been seen as a battlefield of gods, their spilled ichor frozen in eternal flow. Or perhaps it marked a gateway to the underworld where sacrificial offerings were made to appease spirits lurking beneath the ice. The lake feeding the falls adds another layer of mystery. Cut off from the outside world for millennia, it harbors extremophile microbes that thrive without light or oxygen, organisms that challenge our understanding of life's limits. If ancient peoples had legends of creatures dwelling in the earth's veins, could these microbes have been their spirits of the deep? Some cultures, like the Inuit, spoke of subterranean beings inhabiting frozen realms. Might the Blood Falls have been considered a sacred well where these entities revealed themselves through the crimson stain they left behind? The site's isolation only amplifies its eerie gravity. Antarctica wasn't always the uninhabited wasteland we know today. Fossil records show it was once lush with forests, and fringe theories suggest it could have hosted transient human visitors in warmer epochs. While mainstream archaeology dismisses this, the symbolism remains potent. A bleeding glacier in a land of absolute desolation would have been a site of unmatched power, a natural altar demanding reverence or fear. Modern science demystifies the Blood Falls, yet the imagination lingers. Standing before that vivid red torrent, it's impossible not to feel the pull of the primal. Whether as a geological oddity or a hypothetical ritual site, the falls remind us that even in the most hostile corners of the earth, nature writes its own myths in water, iron, and time. High in the Peruvian Andes, where the air grows thin and the rocks shimmer with an almost metallic sheen, lies a carving that defies explanation, the doorway of Aramumuru. Etched into a sheer cliff face near Lake Titicaca, this massive rectangular frame resembles a door but leads nowhere, its center solid stone. Yet local legends insist this isn't just a carving, it's a dormant portal, a gateway to other worlds, one that allegedly swallowed a priest fleeing Spanish conquerors centuries ago, never to return. The story goes like this. In the 16th century, an Incan priest named Aramumuru fled the invading Spaniards, carrying a sacred golden disc known as the Key of the Gods. Pursued to the cliffs, he pressed the disc into a recess in the rock, causing the stone to ripple like liquid as he stepped through, vanishing forever. To this day, shamans and locals claim the doorway activates during certain celestial alignments, humming with energy or even glowing faintly in the dark. Some visitors report strange sensations when touching the frame, tingling skin, sudden temperature drops, or the unsettling feeling of being watched by something just beyond the stone. What makes the site even more compelling are the modern accounts of disappearances. Tour guides whisper about hikers who have ventured too close at dusk only to vanish without a trace. One widely circulated tale describes a woman who allegedly stepped into the frame during a full moon, her screams abruptly cut off as the rock seemed to swallow her whole. Search parties found no footprints leading away, no signs of a fall, just an eerie silence clinging to the cliff face. Skeptics dismiss these stories as campfire tales, but the consistency of the reports is hard to ignore. Geologists argue the doorway is likely an unfinished Incan construction, perhaps the beginnings of a temple or tomb abandoned mid-carving. The Incas were master stonemasons, and their reverence for portals, both physical and spiritual, is well documented. The nearby Temple of the Sun at Ollantaytambo features similar trapezoidal doorways, symbolizing transitions between realms. But why carve a door with no interior? And why here, in this remote stretch of desert highlands? Theories range from the practical to the fantastical. Some suggest the site was a ceremonial stage where rituals mimicked passage to the afterlife. Others propose it marks a natural energy vortex, a place where the Earth's electromagnetic field creates perceptual anomalies. Then there are the more radical ideas that the doorway aligns with ancient astronaut lore, a stargate left by extraterrestrial visitors or advanced pre-Incan civilizations. The region's altitude and mineral-rich geology do produce odd magnetic readings, fueling speculation about hidden technology or latent energy. Standing before the doorway of Aramumuru, it's easy to feel the weight of its mystery. The rock itself seems to pulse with unanswered questions. Was it meant to be a metaphor, a spiritual symbol carved in stone? Or is there truth in the legends? Could this blank frame truly be a threshold, waiting for the right key, the right moment to swing open once more? The cliffs offer no answers, only the wind whistling through the cracks, a sound that almost resembles a voice calling from the other side. Hidden deep in the Peruvian Amazon, where the jungle hums with unseen life, flows a river that defies all logic, its waters simmering at temperatures hot enough to boil alive any creature foolish enough to fall in. Known as Shane Tempishka, or boiled with the heat of the sun, this 4-mile-long tributary reaches a scorching 200 degrees Fahrenheit in places, shrouded in clouds of steam that curl through the dense canopy like ghostly fingers. Unlike typical hot springs fueled by volcanic activity, this river's heat comes from something far more enigmatic: fault lines deep underground that allow geothermal water to surge upward, turning what should be a life-giving stream into a deadly cauldron. For the indigenous Ashaninka people, the river is neither accident nor anomaly, it's sacred. Shamans speak of it as the physical manifestation of Yakumama, the serpent spirit of the waters, a deity whose breath heats the currents as a test of purity. Legends say only those with untarnished souls can approach its banks without harm, while the unworthy risk being dragged beneath the bubbling surface. Rituals performed here are among the most potent in the Ashaninka tradition, involving offerings of rare herbs and whispered invocations to appease the river's spirit. Healers collect its scalding waters, believing them infused with transformative energy, capable of curing illness when used sparingly or inflicting curses if misapplied. The river's deadly nature only amplifies its spiritual weight. Fallen leaves dissolve within seconds in its hottest stretches, and animals that stumble into its flow meet instant, gruesome ends. Explorers recount finding the boiled remains of creatures preserved in the mineral-rich waters, their bodies eerily intact but cooked through, a grim warning to the careless. Yet amidst this lethality, life persists. Certain heat-resistant bacteria thrive in the river's margins, their existence challenging our understanding of biological limits. To the Ashaninka, these microbes are proof of Yakumama's duality, both destroyer and giver of life. Modern scientists remain baffled by the river's extreme heat distribution. Unlike geothermal features like Yellowstone's hot springs, which cluster around volcanic vents, Shanay maintains near-boiling temperatures along its entire length with no visible heat source. Some researchers speculate that an underground network of fissures acts like a natural radiator, channeling superheated water along the riverbed. Others propose a more unsettling theory, that the river's heat fluctuates unpredictably, as if responding to unseen forces, a notion that aligns eerily with shamanic accounts of the water's moods. Standing on the river's banks, the air thick with sulfur and steam, it's impossible not to feel the primal power of the place. The boiling river doesn't just defy science, it demands reverence. Whether as a geological oddity or a spiritual threshold, Shanay forces us to confront the limits of our understanding. The jungle guards its secrets well, but here, in the swirling mist, one truth becomes clear. Some forces refuse to be tamed by explanation. They simply are hot, wild, and utterly untouchable. In the heart of Cambodia's Angkor complex, where ancient temples rise from tangled roots and silent pools, lies a shrine that seems to breathe with life, Neak Pian. At first glance, it resembles countless other ruins in the region, its weathered sandstone carvings depicting serpents, gods, and mythical beasts. But come the rainy season, when floodwaters seep into the temple's central basin, something extraordinary happens. The submerged carvings appear to ripple and shift, their reflections merging with the water's movement until the stone itself seems to writhe like living flesh. It's an illusion so vivid, so unsettlingly lifelike, that it's easy to understand why early visitors believed the statues were imbued with actual spirits. This phenomenon isn't just a quirk of light and water. It's the result of meticulous hydraulic engineering. Neak Pian was designed as a healing sanctuary, its symmetrical pools fed by an intricate network of channels that regulated water flow with precision. The carvings, positioned at just the right depth, interact with the liquid surface to create the illusion of motion. Serpent heads twist as if swimming, lotus petals appear to unfurl, and the faces of deities seem to blink through the shimmering veil. Modern researchers have recreated the effect in simulations, proving that every curve and angle of the carvings was calculated to maximize this ethereal dance. But the true magic lies in how the ancient Khmer interpreted this spectacle. To them, water wasn't merely a tool, it was a sacred force, the lifeblood of the earth. Animist beliefs held that rivers, lakes, and even man-made reservoirs were inhabited by Neak Ta, spirits that could heal or harm. The moving statues of Neak Pian weren't seen as illusions but as proof of these spirits manifesting through the temple's waters. Pilgrims suffering from illness would bathe here, believing the undulating carvings signaled the presence of divine healers. Even the temple's name hints at this union of stone and spirit. Neak Pian translates to entwined serpents, evoking the mythical Naga beings said to guard Cambodia's waters. The genius of Neak Pian's design extends beyond spirituality. The site functioned as a medieval medical center where water was channeled through carved spouts representing the four elements: elephant for earth, horse for wind, lion for fire, and bull for water. Each spout emitted water at different pressures, creating varied therapeutic effects. Patients might stand beneath one for cleansing, another for vigor, guided by the living statues that seemed to approve or reject their presence. It was a fusion of science and faith, where engineering amplified belief in tangible ways. What makes Neak Pian so haunting today is how its illusions still work exactly as intended. Centuries after its abandonment, the water still rises, the carvings still stir, and the line between art and animation blurs as effortlessly as it did for the Khmer. Standing knee-deep in the flooded sanctuary, watching stone serpents coil in the reflected light, you're confronted with a civilization that didn't just build monuments, they built experiences, crafting moments of awe so potent they transcend time. The statues aren't alive, of course, but in the eyes of those who understood their power, they might as well have been. In the lush highlands of Mexico's Huasteca Potosina, a gaping void in the earth beckons the brave and the foolhardy. The Cave of Swallows isn't just a sinkhole. It's a vertical abyss so deep that dropping a stone into its darkness takes 12 seconds to hear the impact. With a depth of over 1,200 feet, it's one of the largest known pit caves on Earth, a natural skyscraper turned upside down. But what makes this place truly extraordinary isn't just its scale, it's the way modern thrill seekers and ancient rituals collide in its shadowy depths. Base jumpers flock here, leaping from the rim into the open air, their parachutes deploying mere seconds before they'd meet the cave floor. The free fall lasts nearly 8 seconds, an eternity in the world of extreme sports. Yet long before adrenaline junkies turned this into a playground, the cave held a far darker significance. Local Totonac and Huastec legends speak of this sinkhole as a portal to Xibalba, the Mayan underworld, a realm of death gods and trials where souls were tested. The cave's name comes from the thousands of swifts that nest in its walls, their daily exodus at dawn resembling spirits rising from the depths. To ancient Mesoamericans, this wasn't coincidence, it was proof the cave breathed with supernatural energy. Archaeologists have found evidence of ritual activity near the sinkhole's rim, ceramic shards, burnt offerings, and carvings depicting figures descending into the earth. One theory suggests the cave was used for ceremonial mock descents, where initiates or priests were lowered partway into the void as a test of faith, simulating a journey to the underworld. The sheer drop would have been terrifying, the darkness absolute, a perfect metaphor for the perilous voyage of the soul. Even more chilling are accounts from early colonial records, which describe nearby caves used for human sacrifices to the rain god Tlaloc. While no bones have been found in the Swallow's depths, the parallels are haunting. The cave's acoustics add another layer of mystery. Shouts from the rim spiral downward, warping into eerie, animalistic echoes that rebound from the walls. In the stillness of a windless day, the sounds seem almost deliberate, as if the cave is answering. Could ancient rituals have harnessed this phenomenon, using chants or drumbeats to awaken the spirit of the abyss? Modern explorers report an unsettling pressure in the air, a sense of being watched from below, a feeling the Totonac attribute to the Chinks, mischievous underworld guardians said to drag the unwary into the depths. Today, the Cave of Swallows exists in two worlds at once. For base jumpers, it's the ultimate adrenaline rush; for archaeologists, a puzzle of cultural memory. But stand at its edge long enough and the distinction blurs. The void doesn't care why you've come, it only asks if you're ready to confront what lies beneath. Whether as a gateway to the gods or a challenge to gravity, this sinkhole reminds us that some frontiers aren't meant to be conquered. They're meant to humble us, to whisper of forces older than fear itself. In the vast, shifting expanse of the Sahara, where golden dunes stretch endlessly under the blistering sun, some of these towering mountains of sand don't just sit silently, they sing. Known as singing sands, these rare dunes produce deep, resonant hums that vibrate through the desert air, a phenomenon so eerie it's been mistaken for distant thunder, chanting monks, or even the whispers of long-dead spirits. The sound can last for minutes, swelling to a crescendo before fading into the wind, as if the earth itself were exhaling a secret melody. The science behind these haunting harmonies is as fascinating as the legends they've inspired. When dry sand grains of a specific size and roundness slide down a steep dune face, they create synchronized vibrations, millions of tiny collisions generating a unified frequency. The dune acts like a massive natural amplifier, with the grain's movement producing tones as low as 70 Hz, deep enough to rattle your chest. But not all sand sings. The conditions must be perfect, the grains need to be uniform, the air bone dry, and the slope just steep enough to trigger an avalanche. Even then, only a handful of dunes worldwide possess this uncanny ability, as if nature handpicked them for a hidden symphony. For the nomadic Tuareg and Bedouin peoples, these singing sands aren't just geological quirks, they're sacred. many believe the sounds are the voices of jinn, unseen spirits said to inhabit the desert's most desolate corners. Some tribes treat the dunes as oracles, interpreting shifts in tone as omens. A deep, steady hum might signal safe passage, while a discordant wail could warn of impending storms or raiders. Rituals developed around these sites, with travelers leaving small offerings, dates, beads, or sips of precious water to placate the spirits before crossing their domain. Even today, guides in Mauritania's singing dune of the Sahel caution visitors against climbing certain slopes, lest they disturb the sleep of the jinn. European explorers, hearing these tales, dismissed them as superstition until they witnessed the phenomenon themselves. In the 1800s, adventurers like Charles Darwin wrote of encountering singing sands in Chile, baffled by the musical desert. Later, soldiers in World War II reported eerie hums from North African dunes, some mistaking them for enemy aircraft engines hidden beneath the sand. The military even investigated whether the sound could be weaponized, though the desert guarded its secrets too well. What makes these sands so captivating isn't just their sound, but their unpredictability. A dune might sing for decades, then fall silent without explanation. Some researchers suspect subtle shifts in humidity or grain composition tune the dunes like natural instruments, while others propose that human interference, footsteps, vehicles can disrupt their delicate equilibrium. The few scientists who have recorded the sounds describe them as otherworldly, closer to a didgeridoo's drone or a Buddhist chant than anything mechanical. Standing at the base of a singing dune as it erupts into voice, it's impossible not to feel the weight of the mystery. Here, science and legend converge in a single, vibrating moment. The desert, often imagined as lifeless and silent, reminds us that it's anything but. Its sands hold melodies older than history, songs without words, waiting for the right wind, the right slide, the right listener to bring them forth. Whether as a spiritual beacon or a sonic puzzle, the singing sands prove that even the most barren landscapes pulse with hidden life, if only we know how to listen. Among the rarest and most unsettling phenomena reported by explorers of ancient tombs are the so-called everlasting lamps, flames said to burn for centuries in sealed chambers, untouched by human hands. The Roman historian Plutarch described stumbling upon one such light in a crypt beneath the temple of Jupiter Ammon, its flame flickering despite the absence of air or fuel. Similar accounts appear in medieval texts where monks claim to discover perpetually lit lanterns in Egyptian catacombs or beneath Babylonian temples, their glow undimmed by time. Were these merely legends, or could ancient civilizations have harnessed forgotten technologies to defy the laws of thermodynamics? The most plausible explanation lies in chemistry, not magic. Certain naturally occurring phosphorescent materials like barium oxide or calcium phosphide emit a weak, persistent glow when exposed to oxygen. Sealed in airtight containers, these substances could theoretically simulate a flame's appearance for decades. The Chinese Han Dynasty reportedly crafted moon lamps from treated jade, which absorbed sunlight by day and glowed faintly at night. Similarly, Renaissance alchemists experimented with Bologna stones, minerals that shone after being calcined. If placed in reflective dishes or behind translucent screens, such materials might easily fool observers into seeing eternal flames. Yet some accounts defy even these ingenious solutions. The 5th century Bishop St. Augustine wrote of a temple lamp in Egypt that neither wind nor water could extinguish, suggesting a combustion source beyond ordinary fire. Modern experiments with low-temperature plasma-ionized gas that emits light without traditional burning hint at a possible parallel. The ancient Baghdad batteries, clay jars containing acidic compounds and metal rods, might have generated enough electrical charge to sustain plasma arcs in sealed environments. While speculative, the idea aligns with descriptions of lamps that hummed like bees or emitted cold blue light in medieval chronicles. perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from unintended rediscoveries. In 1972, workers renovating a medieval church in Italy uncovered a sealed niche containing a glass vessel with a wick submerged in viscous liquid. When exposed to air, the substance spontaneously ignited, a delayed chemical reaction triggered after centuries of dormancy. Analysis revealed a mix of white phosphorus and animal fat, a combination that could remain stable in an oxygen-free environment indefinitely. Similar self-igniting oils appear in Arabic alchemical manuscripts, suggesting widespread, if secretive, knowledge of such techniques. The true mystery isn't whether these lamps existed, but why they were created. In cultures where fire symbolized the soul's immortality, from Zoroastrian temples to Christian catacombs, an undying flame may have served as a metaphysical beacon, assuring worshippers of life beyond death. Alternatively, they might have been practical safeguards, designed to purify air in burial chambers or ward off grave robbers with the illusion of supernatural guardians. Today, as we replicate these effects with LEDs and nuclear isotopes, the everlasting lamps challenge our assumptions about ancient innovation. They remind us that the line between myth and science often blurs, and that some secrets, like the flames themselves, refuse to be extinguished. In the ancient temple of Lepakshi, nestled in southern India's arid landscapes, one pillar defies the very laws of physics suspended in midair, its base hovering just a hair's breadth above the ground. Known as the Hanging Pillar, this architectural marvel has baffled engineers and pilgrims alike for centuries. Carved from a single block of granite, the pillar appears to float effortlessly among its supporting counterparts, with enough space beneath it to slide a thin cloth or even a sheet of paper cleanly through. Visitors often test the gap themselves, marveling at how such a massive structure remains standing without a solid foundation. The secret lies in the pillar's ingenious design. Unlike the other pillars in the Virabhadra temple, which are firmly rooted to the floor, this one was deliberately offset, its weight distributed through a carefully calculated interplay of load-bearing arches and adjoining columns. The temple's 16th-century architects, masters of stone and symmetry, crafted the entire hall so that the ceiling's pressure is channeled outward, leaving the hanging pillar free to taunt gravity. Modern engineers who have studied the site compare it to a delicate game of Jenga. Remove one critical block, and the entire structure could collapse. Yet here, the pillar has held its pose for over 400 years, surviving earthquakes, invasions, and the slow creep of time. But to the devout, this isn't just a feat of engineering, it's a divine signature. Local legends claim the pillar hangs as a testament to the god Virabhadra's power, a deliberate miracle left by the temple's celestial builders. One popular tale tells of a British engineer during colonial rule who, skeptical of the pillar's stability, tried to dislodge it to uncover its secret. As the story goes, his efforts not only failed but caused the entire temple to shudder ominously, as if warning against further tampering. Terrified, he abandoned the attempt and the pillar remained untouched. To this day, some believe the gap beneath it is a sacred threshold, a space where the earthly and the eternal briefly touch. The pillar's role in rituals adds another layer of mystique. Devotees circle it clockwise, whispering prayers as they pass their hands beneath the gap, a gesture said to bring blessings or even heal ailments. Others tie vibrant threads around its base, each knot a whispered wish anchored to the impossible. The temple's priests speak of the pillar as a cosmic axis, a literal bridge between the human and the divine, its defiance of gravity mirroring the soul's longing to transcend earthly limits. What makes the hanging pillar truly mesmerizing isn't just its physics or folklore, but the way it straddles both worlds so effortlessly. Scientists can explain how it stands, but the why lingers in the realm of wonder. Was it meant to showcase human ingenuity, to inspire awe, or to remind us that some truths hover just beyond our grasp? The pillar offers no answers, only its silent, stubborn resistance to the expected. In a world bound by rules, it remains a breath of air beneath stone, a reminder that even the heaviest mysteries can float, if only for a moment. Deep in the Tian Shan mountains of Kazakhstan, where the water is so clear it feels like peering through liquid glass, lies a forest that shouldn't exist, not here, not like this. Lake Kindi's submerged trees rise from the depths like skeletal sentinels, their bare, branchless trunks piercing the surface while their roots remain anchored in an unseen world below. These aren't just drowned trees, they're perfectly preserved relics of an earthquake a century ago, when a landslide dammed a valley and flooded the spruce forest, trapping it in a watery time capsule. The alkaline water, cold as a grave, halted decay, leaving the wood eerily intact. But what makes this place truly uncanny isn't just the science. It's the way the trees seem to hum with silent energy, as if they're waiting to whisper secrets to those who dare to dive close enough. For local nomadic tribes, the lake has long been a site of quiet reverence. Before modern divers turned it into a tourist attraction, elders spoke of the submerged forest as a boundary between realms, the living world above and the spirit world below. The trees, frozen in their drowning, were seen as bridges for souls in transition. Some clans left small offerings by the shore, bundles of dried herbs, woven horsehair charms, even sips of fermented mare's milk poured onto the water's surface. These weren't acts of superstition but rituals of respect, acknowledging the lake's dual nature as both tomb and guardian. Fishermen avoided casting nets here, not out of fear, but because the forest's stillness felt too much like prayer to disrupt. The lake's physical properties only deepen its mystique. Dive beneath the surface and the world shifts. Sunlight fractures into beams that illuminate the trunks in an unearthly turquoise glow, while the water's chill numbs your skin within minutes. The trees, stripped of bark by time, reveal smooth, pale skeletons that shimmer like marble. In winter, when the lake freezes, the trunks become jagged spikes trapped in ice, a landscape so surreal, Soviet scientists initially mistook aerial photographs for some kind of glacial anomaly. Yet the most haunting detail isn't visible to the naked eye. The wood, preserved by the lake's unique chemistry, emits a faint, resonant tone when struck, a sound that travels unnervingly far underwater. Could this acoustic quirk have held significance for ancient rituals? Archaeologists have found no direct evidence of ceremonies performed in the lake itself, but the broader region is dotted with sacred springs and mountain shrines where water was and still is treated as a living entity. The Altai people who once roamed these valleys believed certain bodies of water housed water masters, spirits who demanded acknowledgement before humans could safely pass. Offerings thrown into Lake Kindi's depths would sink straight down, vanishing into the forest's tangled underworld, a gesture that might have been seen as delivering a message directly to the other side. Even today, divers report an odd compulsion to touch the trees, as if drawn by some primal instinct to connect with the past. What lingers most about Lake Kindi isn't just its beauty, but its ambiguity. The forest is neither fully alive nor entirely dead, neither fully of this world nor completely separated from it. It exists in the in-between, a place where time itself seems suspended. Whether as a spiritual threshold, a natural wonder, or a monument to the Earth's unpredictable power, the submerged forest reminds us that some boundaries are meant to blur. The trees stand, or rather float, as silent witnesses to the idea that endings aren't always final. Sometimes they're just another form of transformation, waiting beneath the surface for the right light, the right eyes to reveal their hidden truth. In the quiet Yorkshire town of Knaresborough, a trickle of water defies nature in the most unsettling way. The petrifying well doesn't just flow, it transforms. Leaves, sticks, even teddy bears left beneath its droplets slowly turn to stone over months, encased in a rocky shell as if frozen in time. This isn't magic, though it certainly seemed so to medieval pilgrims who flocked here seeking miracles. The water's secret lies in its mineral load, dissolved calcium carbonate so concentrated that it coats objects layer by layer, preserving them in intricate detail. A feather submerged here might emerge looking like a delicate stone sculpture, every barb and quill perfectly fossilized. The well's eerie power made it a magnet for medieval spirituality. Pilgrims believed the waters held divine energy, capable of petrifying not just objects but sins, turning moral decay into something solid enough to shed. They'd dip personal belongings, a lock of hair, a scrap of clothing, into the spring, watching as the mineral crust formed, proof that their transgressions had been turned to stone and washed away. Local monks encouraged the belief, selling fragments of petrified objects as holy relics. The well became a stop on England's unofficial pilgrimage circuit, a place where the boundary between earthly and eternal felt tantalizingly thin. Alchemists, too, saw potential in these waters. To them, the petrification process mirrored the elusive lapis philosophorum, the philosopher's stone said to transmute base metals into gold. Manuscripts from the 16th century describe experiments where iron tools were left submerged for years, emerging encased in stony sleeves. While no gold resulted, the transformations fed alchemical lore, suggesting that nature itself held the keys to metamorphosis. The well's waters were bottled and sold across Europe as a curiosity, with some claiming they could halt aging or cure ailments. Modern geology demystifies the phenomenon, but the wonder remains. Visitors still hang objects beneath the drip today. It's more likely to be a child's toy than a pilgrim's offering and return months later to find them stone still. The process mirrors how natural fossils form, but compressed from millennia to months. Yet standing before the well's mossy overhang, watching water glint as it rolls over a half-petrified bicycle handlebar, it's easy to feel the old awe stirring. This isn't just chemistry, it's a collision of time and transformation where the ordinary becomes extraordinary drop by patient drop. Whether as a medieval soul cleanser, an alchemist's laboratory, or a modern marvel, the petrifying well whispers the same truth. Some forces work slowly, irrevocably, turning the fragile into the eternal before our very eyes. Deep in the Ouachita Mountains of Arkansas, a peculiar kind of rock scatters across the forest floor, ordinary in appearance but with an extraordinary secret. Known as magnetite-rich novaculite, these stones possess a magnetic pull strong enough to send compass needles spinning wildly, defying navigation tools with an almost mischievous energy. To the untrained eye, they blend seamlessly with the region's rugged terrain, but hold one near a magnet, and it clings with an unshakable grip, as if the earth itself has imprinted them with hidden force. Long before geologists documented their properties, these magnetic rocks wove themselves into the fabric of Native American lore. The Caddo and Quapaw tribes spoke of Unisu, or spirit rocks, believing them to be physical manifestations of otherworldly energy. According to oral traditions, these stones marked thresholds between realms, places where the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds grew thin. Shamans used them in healing rituals, placing the rocks on ailing limbs to draw out sickness, while warriors carried small fragments as talismans for protection in battle. Some legends even describe the rocks as fragments of a star that fell to earth, still humming with celestial power. Science, of course, offers a more grounded explanation. The stones owe their magnetism to high concentrations of magnetite, an iron oxide that forms under intense heat and pressure. What makes Arkansas's deposits unique is their purity. Unlike most magnetic rocks, which contain only trace amounts of magnetite, these novaculite specimens can be up to 80% iron-rich, creating a natural lodestone effect. Geologists trace their origins back to the Paleozoic era, when volcanic activity and shifting tectonic plates forged these anomalies deep underground. Over millennia, erosion exposed them, scattering them across the landscape like puzzle pieces from an ancient geologic event. Yet the mystery deepens when you consider their distribution. The rocks aren't evenly spread but clustered in specific zones, often near ancient ceremonial sites. Archaeologists have unearthed magnetite novaculite artifacts at Mississippian-era mounds, some carved into effigies of animals or deities. Were these stones chosen for their symbolic resonance, or did their physical properties hold practical value? One theory suggests they served as primitive navigation aids, a kind of prehistoric compass for ritual processions or trade routes. Another points to their use in fire-starting rituals. When struck against flint, the high iron content produces sparks brighter and hotter than ordinary stone. The rock's modern rediscovery only adds to their mystique. In the 1930s, a geologist named John Branner documented their effect on compasses, sparking interest from the military during World War II. Experiments explored whether the stones could interfere with enemy navigation, though the idea was eventually abandoned. Today, hobbyists and scientists alike comb the Ouachitas for specimens, some seeking geologic insight, others chasing the lingering whisper of legend. Standing in an Arkansas creek, turning one of these unassuming stones in your hand, it's easy to feel the pull of both worlds, the tangible weight of iron and the intangible weight of story. Whether as tools of shamans, quirks of geology, or fragments of a fallen star, the magnetic rocks remind us that the Earth's wonders aren't always grand canyons or towering peaks. Sometimes they're small, quiet things that hum with secrets, waiting for the right hands to hold them. In the misty highlands of northeast India, where the morning sun turns the water to liquid gold, lies a lake unlike any other, Loktak, home to the floating islands known as Fumdis. These aren't just ordinary patches of vegetation. They're colossal, living rafts of tangled roots, soil, and organic matter, some spanning hundreds of acres, drifting lazily with the wind and currents. Step onto one, and the ground beneath you sways like a giant waterbed, a surreal sensation that feels like walking on the Earth's very pulse. But what makes these islands truly extraordinary isn't just their movement, it's the way they've shaped an entire culture, binding the lives of the local fishing communities to their ever-shifting surface in ways both practical and profound. The Fumdis form over decades as decomposing plants and weeds knit together into thick, buoyant mats, creating a mosaic of islands that constantly rearrange the lake's geography. For the fishermen of the Métis people, these floating masses are more than just fishing grounds, they're sacred partners in an ancient dance of survival. Villages like those of the Fum Sangba, or island dwellers, perch atop the largest Fumdis, their bamboo huts built directly on the spongy surface. Everything here is designed to move. Walkways flex with the tides, fishing nets adjust to the island's drift, and even the livestock learns to navigate the gentle rocking beneath their hooves. But the relationship runs deeper than adaptation. The Métis believe the islands are alive, imbued with the spirit of Imaloktak Lembai, the goddess of the lake, who governs their movements like a celestial puppeteer. Rituals here revolve around this symbiotic bond. Before the monsoon, when the Fumdis are most volatile, fishermen perform the Hiyong Hayan, a ceremonial boat race meant to honor the goddess and seek her blessing for safe passage through the shifting waters. Offerings of rice, flowers, and handmade fishing traps are placed at the edges of the islands, gifts to ensure they remain fertile and anchored, at least enough to sustain the season's catch. The most sacred Fumdis, like those near the ancient temple of Thanga, are considered thresholds between worlds where the veil between the divine and earthly is thin. Elders tell stories of islands that vanished overnight, only to reappear years later in distant corners of the lake, as if guided by unseen hands. Yet this fragile balance faces modern threats. Hydroelectric projects and pollution have disrupted the lake's natural rhythms, causing some Fumdis to sink or disintegrate. The Métis now fight to preserve their way of life, blending tradition with innovation. Some communities weave artificial floating platforms to reinforce the islands, while activists push for sustainable fishing practices to protect the delicate ecosystem. The Fumdies, once taken for granted as eternal, have become a rallying cry, a symbol of resilience in a changing world. Standing on a Fumdi at dusk, watching the fishermen's torches flicker across the water as the islands drift like sleepy giants, you begin to understand the deeper truth here. These aren't just floating clumps of vegetation. They're a living testament to human adaptability, a reminder that home doesn't always need solid ground beneath it. The Fumdies teach a quiet lesson. Sometimes the most profound stability comes from learning to move with the currents, not against them. And in their gentle, relentless dance, they carry the stories of a people who have learned to listen to the whispers of the water. High in the windswept cliffs of Nepal's Mustang region, where the air thins and the sky presses close, the dead rest in places the living can scarcely reach. Carved into sheer rock faces hundreds of feet above the valley floor, the sky tombs of Mustang cling to the cliffs like silent sentinels, their wooden coffins stacked precariously in crevices and caves. These aren't just burial sites, they're a testament to a vanishing tradition that merges the practical with the spiritual, where geography and belief intertwine in a way that defies modern logic. To reach them requires ropes, climbing gear, and nerves of steel, leaving visitors to wonder, why would anyone go to such lengths to inter their dead in the sky? The answer lies in an ancient practice known as sky burial, once common across the Himalayas. For the Buddhist communities of Mustang, death wasn't an end but a transition, and the body merely a vessel to be returned to the elements. In traditional sky burials, corpses were left on mountaintops to be consumed by vultures, a practice still observed in parts of Tibet, symbolizing the soul's release from the physical world. But in Mustang, the harsh climate and scarcity of birds of prey forced an adaptation. Instead of exposing bodies to the open air, they were placed in high, dry caves where the arid environment and altitude acted as natural preservatives, mummifying the dead in a suspended state between earth and heaven. The tombs themselves are feats of ingenuity. Many date back over 1,000 years, their wooden coffins painted with intricate carvings of deities and protective symbols. Some chambers house entire families, their bones intermingled over generations, while others hold solitary figures wrapped in rich textiles, their faces sometimes still visible beneath layers of time. The most sacred sites are adorned with prayer flags, their faded colors fluttering like whispers on the wind, a reminder that these aren't just graves but portals. Local lore claims the higher the tomb, the swifter the soul's ascent, a belief that turned cliffs into stairways to the divine. Yet the sky tombs are more than relics of faith, they're windows into a lost world. Many contain artifacts untouched for centuries, bronze ritual bowls, remnants of silk robes, even ancient manuscripts preserved by the dry air. In 2007, a team of archaeologists discovered a chamber filled with over a dozen mummies, their teeth still stained with betel nut, a clue to their final moments. These finds suggest the tombs weren't just practical solutions but active ritual spaces, where the living return to commune with ancestors or seek their guidance. The mystery that lingers isn't about how these tombs were built, though the logistics of hauling coffins up sheer cliffs remain staggering, but why they were abandoned. As Buddhism evolved and ground burials became more common, the sky tombs faded from use, their locations fading into local memory. Today, climate change and erosion threaten their survival, with some chambers collapsing into the valleys below. But for those who brave the climb, the tombs still hold their quiet power. Standing before them, eye level with clouds, you're struck by the sheer audacity of their placement. These weren't just places to store the dead, they were launching pads for the soul, a final defiance of gravity in service of something far grander. The sky tombs don't just cling to the cliffs, they reach for the heavens, a silent echo of a belief that death, like the mountains, is just another frontier to be scaled. From whispering domes that carry secrets across centuries to rivers boiling with the heat of forgotten gods, these 30 ancient phenomena remind us that the past refuses to sit quietly in textbooks. Each site we've explored, whether cloaked in jungle shadows or carved into desert stone, challenges the neat division between myth and reality. Were the floating stones of Karnak an astronomical calculator or a seismic warning system? Did the Yonaguni monument rise from human hands or the ocean's whims? The answers might lie somewhere between archaeology and legend, in that shimmering space where facts dissolve into wonder. What unites these mysteries isn't just their strangeness, but the way they expose the limits of our modern certainty. The builders of the hypogeum didn't need decibels and hertz to harness sound as sacred force. The priests of Delphi didn't require chemistry textbooks to wield intoxicating vapors as divine messengers. These were cultures that spoke the language of the earth fluently, interpreting its whispers in ways we're still struggling to decode. And perhaps that's the real magic, not that ancient peoples possessed lost technologies, but that they perceived connections we've since forgotten, where every flame, rock, and echo was alive with meaning. Now it's your turn. Have you stood beneath Gol Gumbaz's whispering dome or felt the magnetic pull of Arkansas's spirit rocks? Do you think the doorway of Aramumuru is an unfinished relic or a dormant portal? The comments are open for theories, personal encounters, and even your own local legends that blur history into mystery. And if you're hungry for more expeditions into the unknown, don't just watch from the sidelines. Hit subscribe and join us as we keep unraveling the world's most captivating enigmas. After all, the next great discovery might be waiting for someone bold enough to listen when the stones start